External. Mesopotamia, city of your main city's gate. Day. Kid on horseback enters the city through the main gate. Onlookers step aside, captivated by the unusual sight of a person astride a horse. Even the guards are amazed. They allow his passage unhindered. Kid reaches the enclosure where aged bears stand guard. His horse senses predators and rears up. The bears are startled by his commanding demeanor, fleeing and seeking shelter within the cage, their silver chains jingling. Nearby spectators burst into laughter at the scene. Kid maintains a composed smile and proceeds on his way amidst the curious stares of the crowd. Internal. Market Square on the pier. A tavern under a cane roof. Day. Kid enters the tavern, scanning the room with a keen eye. He effortlessly identifies the proprietress, Shilgi-Sin, 40, an elegant, charming, and meticulously groomed woman. Without hesitation, Kid makes his way toward her.
Ma'am, could you guide me to Ramesh?
What's your purpose, cutie?
I bear my father's regards for him.
Shilgi-Sin regards him with a friendly scrutiny, a sly smile gracing her countenance.
Enter, sit down, request charcoal grilled lamb ribs. Ramesh often arrives at dusk.
Internal. Tavern under a cane roof. Evening. Contented, Kid slides the vacant copper plate aside, having stripped the lamb ribs clean. He reclines against the chair's backrest, observing the clientele. At that very moment, Ramesh, 25, a portly, sociable, and crafty man, strides into the tavern. He glides through the room like a ship, smoothly making his way to the chosen table, exchanging nods of recognition with the tavern's patrons. Shilgi-Sin herself accepts a light cloak adorned with a crimson lining and inquires.
What shall you dine on today, dear Rame? As usual?
Indeed, as always, dear Shilgi-Sin.
Ramesh settles in comfortably.
A newcomer is asking for you, and his choice of footwear is quite unconventional, similar to those of mountain dwellers.
Thank you, I'll attend to it.
Shilgi-Sin retreats with the stout man's cloak. While Ramesh observes the scene, he makes eye contact with Kid. Kid rises from his seat and approaches him.
My father Abzu from Larsa conveys greetings and good health to you.
The plump man's countenance lights up.
How is he? He's in good spirits.
He gestures expansively, welcoming Kid to the table.
Please take a seat.
Internal. Tavern under the cane roof. Evening. Later. Kid and Ramesh sit together at a table. They are now quite tipsy and chatting away.
King Namu met his demise in combat bravely but unwisely. His guards and relatives deserted him, akin to a broken jug.
Rascals.
But his son, the young King Shilgi, inflamed them all and very cruelly.
They deserve it.
Exactly. He appointed his own viziers, and his close friend Urdunana assumed the role of Chief Vizier.
What did you say?
Chief Vizier Urdunana.
That's an uncommon name. If it's the person I'm thinking of, I know him from our school days.
That's great. You should meet him, and I know who can arrange it at the palace.
I owe you one, my friend.
Your father once saved me, protecting my caravan from bandits with his squad. Consider it settled.
Both raise their cups of wine and clink them together. Internal. Your palace. Chef Vizier's room. Day. Urdunana warmly greets Kid with a sweeping gesture of both hands.
Kid from Larsa, where did you vanish to after completing your education?
I was held captive by the Suburtu until my father paid to secure my release.
Urdunana closely examines Kid's face.
For how long?
For a span of 3 years.
And what were your duties during that time?
Routine, but I've learned martial arts and horseback riding.
Urdunana lets out a chuckle.
Ah, so you were the one at the high gate?
With a wry grin, Kid acknowledges this. Urdunana bursts into hearty laughter.
You've spooked the palace bears. They'll be even fiercer than the gatekeepers.
Kid also smiles. Urdunana places a hand on Kid's shoulder.
I'm elated to welcome you back to our midst.
Thanks. What tasks am I assigned within the palace?
Grasp the processes of our construction endeavors. Excel in this domain. Bountiful rewards await you.
I shall strive to meet your expectation.
The most venerable vizier among us will be your mentor. His sagacity has enlightened many.
With a warm smile, he affectionately pats Kid's shoulder. Kid places his hands at his sides. With a nod akin to that of a warrior, he offers a brief salute. Internal, Palace, workroom, evening. 1 year later, 2084 BC. Enkid appearing weary, sifts through the clay tablets within his workspace. He sets aside the ones he requires. Footsteps resonate, prompting him to redirect his gaze towards the arched entrance. Bazi, 50, an elegantly aging, influential, sly and suave courtier, enters the room. His face bears a benevolent smile.
You toil relentlessly, dear Enkid.
Such is my customary approach, dear Bazi.
As your mentor, I don't entertain any doubts regarding your capability.
May I ask the purpose of your visit?
I'm simply suggesting your participation in a competition.
What kind of?
Unarmed warriors seek to best their opponents. Strikes with hands, elbows, and legs are permitted.
Certainly, why not? When is it?
Tomorrow, the day promises to be demanding.
Bazi departs with a composed demeanor, leaving Enkid alone. External, Palace, fighting arena, day. A wrestling match commences in the arena, with Lipit and Enkid entwined in a fierce clash. Clad in loincloths and glistening with oil, their fierce combat enthralls the exquisite, attired audience. Perched in a redwood chair, King Shilgi ex-schoolmate Naba is watching the fight. Enkid seizes an opportunity, executing a perfect throw. The onlookers embrace his success. Lipit manages to rise, his eyes seething with enmity directed at Enkid. Enkid steps closer, offering a conciliatory handshake. Lipit declines, folding his arms firmly across his chest.
You will rue this day.
Enkid raises his hands triumphantly and turns towards the king. King Shilgi regards Enkid with a benevolent gaze, discreetly affirming his approval. Bazi, dissatisfied, clenches his lips. Internal, tavern under the cane roof, evening. Enkid, elegantly attired, steps into the tavern. The regulars welcome him with fervor, and a few approach to offer their hearty congratulations. Sajisha steps up, planting a kiss on Enkid's cheek, eliciting cheers of approval from the regulars. Enkid blushes and smiles. He makes his way toward a table where Urmesh is seated.
You're emerging as the favored figure in the entire capital.
Oh, really?
Enkid settles into a chair by the table.
Are you aware that your mountain dwellers' boots have become a citywide fashion trend?
He shows Enkid his new boots. Sporting a smile, Enkid scans the crowd. Everyone adores him. External, Urmesh's house, rooftop, sunrise. Enkid, dressed in a plain loincloth with a silver hoop on his head, stands with arms outstretched, palms up, greeting the rising sun. His physique is strikingly impressive. His eyes are shut, while his lips murmur something softly. External, Urmesh's house, garden morning. Enkid and Urmesh are seated at the table.
Your chef is a genius, and those dancers last night were stunning.
Urmesh executes a graceful bow.
I notice you're wearing a silver hoop. How's your work progressing?
All seems fine, but I harbor concerns about my mentor's questionable conduct.
Be cautious, my dear friend. Theft is an ongoing issue in construction.
When I've gathered the evidence, I'll directly engage the chief vizier.
I've alerted you. Those who expose it often face tragic consequences or disappear.
Indeed, I shall exercise vigilance.
Internal, Palace, Enkid's workroom, day. Enkid labors diligently at a desk. He meticulously examines clay tablets. He takes the central clay slab, covered in a damp cloth. Carefully unfurling the moist fabric, Enkid encounters a tree adorned with memories within its canopy. With a stylus in hand, he proceeds to sketch fresh branches onto the clay surface. He inspects his labor with a sense of contentment and sets the table aside. Seated at the desk, he reclines, placing his hands behind his head. A smile of satisfaction graces his visage. Internal, Royal Palace, Throne Hall, day. Upon a lavish blackwood throne, the King Shilgi preside. Torches flicker, casting a glow on his distinguished face and unwavering gaze. Enkid stands in the presence of the king.
Erdinana is satisfied with you. Now I have an assignment for you.
Enkid nods in agreement.
I urge you to assess the progress of the canal and dam works in Nipur. It has encountered impediments.
Certainly.
Set forth with 2 talents of gold, use them wisely, and uphold unwavering resolve with fairness. Depart swiftly.
Kid bows and leaves the room through the grand door without turning his back. A man dressed in clothing reminiscent of Bedouin attire appears from a side entrance. Akergale, 40, an influential, forceful, attentive, and the king's steadfast vizier, approaches Shilgi.
Supervise his well-being in Nipper on my behalf.
I'll ensure he's accompanied by the finest warriors as his protectors.
The king steps down from his throne and strides toward the center of the hall. Along the way, he pauses by an ancient vase, running his fingers over its surface before turning to face Akergale.
For discover his flaw, and I shall determine his destiny.
Do you not trust him, my lord?
I trust no one.
Akergale bows his head, understanding the king's request, before raising it again with admiration.
Oh, magnificent king, you are akin to the demon Namtar, holding the power to shape the destinies of people.
Shilgi dismisses Akergale calmly with a flick of his finger. Without turning his back to the ruler, Akergale vanishes into the shadows of the throne hall. The rays of the sun illuminate the wall of the throne hall, depicting an eagle with a lion's head, the symbol of the king Shilgi. Internal. King's Palace, Secret Room, Evening. 2 courtiers recline upon the podium, Vizier Bazi and the haughty palace administrator Lugu. 40. A careful, silky, sly, zealous courtier. The both are dressed in opulent attire, with rings adorning their fingers. They wear golden diadems upon their heads. As they converse, they pluck grapes from a large dish containing both red and white varieties.
The king's power grows with each passing day. Soon our sovereign will find himself restricted within the confines of our kingdom.
Why, our generous king's a peacemaker.
The king won't ignore the Alamites' role in his father's downfall.
It means we should be prepared for the king's military campaign.
I think in about 5 years.
We must seize this chance. Providing the army with supplies can lead to great wealth.
Exactly.
Bazi skillfully plucks a few succulent grapes from a glistening silver platter and relishes their delectable taste.
Have you heard about the king appointing Enkid as an inspector with extraordinary authority?
That newcomer from Lhasa.
Enkid poses a threat. The king values his advice.
If he uncovers our activities in Nipper, we're doomed.
Yeah, I've cautioned Lipit already.
And if we offer him a bribe?
A mere exchange of silver or gold won't suffice for him.
In that event, he should be eliminated before he amasses excessive power.
External. Mesopotamia, road to Nipper, morning. Enkid's caravan travels from to Nipper. There are 4 wagons in the caravan containing warriors. Enkid is mounted on a horse. Soldiers walk ahead and behind the caravan. They lead donkeys by the reins, carrying ammunition, flasks with water and food. The caravan trails the bundled reed sticks, which act as markers. External, near Nipper. Construction site, sunset. Enkid's caravan draws nearer to the construction site. The outlines of the nearly 2/3 of the future dam can already be discerned, along with a dry canal bed that runs to and from the dam. External, builder's camp, entrance gate, twilight. The head guard at the gate inspects Enkid's golden seal, which bears the royal emblem. The guards grant the caravan passage, gradually opening the gate to admit it into the camp. As the Enkid's caravan approaches, workers and slaves scatter in fear, avoiding eye contact with the guest. Enkid hears screams and sees a slave being tied to a post and mercilessly whipped. Meanwhile, Lipit, seated on a high-backed chair, watches the punishment unfold. A guard quickly runs up to him and whispers about the Enkid's arrival. Upon reaching the site, Enkid dismounts and hands the reins to a servant. Lipit rises from his chair and turns towards Enkid.
The Royal Inspector. It has been it's like quite some time since our paths last crossed.
Indeed, it has been a while, Lipit.
I received word of your arrival. Hope your journey was pleasant.
I'm well.
Will you join me for a meal?
I'm not hungry. Can you guide me to where I can find lodging for my team?
We used to dine together, but now you decline. Does my presence make you uneasy, or do I unsettle you?
Not uneasy, just not hungry.
All right, you'll be shown to your accommodations.
Lippet turns his back to Enkid and addresses the overseers with a command.
That will be all.
The executioners begin to release the slave, and Lippet points a finger at one of the servants.
Accompany our guests.
The servant rushes up to Enkid, offering praises and bowing repeatedly. The caravan departs and makes its way through the builder's camp. External construction site. Builder's camp. Day. Enkid, accompanied by guards, inspects the camp and the progress of the work. He speaks with the artisans, tool grinders, a slave, and guards. External construction site. Builder's camp. Evening. Lippet, flanked by his personal security, questions tool grinders who conversed with Enkid. Consumed by anger, Lippet lethally impales the slave, who talked to Enkid with a dart, observing the wretched man's torment. Internal. Builder's camp. Enkid's chamber. Day. A tall, ambitious, and benevolent young man steps into Enkid's chamber. His name is Nankani, 25.
You requested my presence.
Enkid carefully examines the young man.
Your name must be Namkhani, correct?
The young man bows in confirmation.
I've been informed of your exceptional expertise.
Folks tend to chatter without substance.
Do not be modest.
You know that communicating with you is dangerous.
You have nothing to fear. Come to the table. Study my diagram closely. Have I overlooked anything?
Nankani examines the tree's crown on the clay tablet with keen attention. He regards Enkid with admiration.
Brilliant. How did you foresee all of this beforehand?
I won't circumvent the issue. I'll inquire directly. What are your thoughts on Lippet?
He displays malevolence, avarice, and injustice, yet he possesses the virtue of honoring his commitments.
Go ahead.
I strongly believe that there is a powerful figure in the capital supporting him.
Highly likely.
I hold regard for strict deadlines, unlike Lippet. Legash is where I hail from.
Precisely my purpose here is to establish order and adhere to deadlines.
Nankani shakes his head skeptically.
You face a formidable task.
The truth is on my side. You are free to go.
Nankani bows and exits the room without turning his back. Internal. Builder's camp. Enkid's chamber. Evening. A guard enters the room, seeking Enkid's attention.
There's a man for you sent by Lippet. Should I let him in?
Enkid interrupts his work and rises from the table. After a brief moment of contemplation, he nods in approval.
Let him come in.
The Lippet servant enters the room sideways. He bows deeply.
Lippet invites you to have a conversation.
Why not?
Please come with me.
Internal. Builder's camp. Lippet's residence. Evening. Lippet sits at a table laden with dishes and jugs of wine. Being tipsy, he greedily eats a large piece of meat. Beautiful girls are sitting on both of his sides, embracing him. The beauties glance up briskly as Enkid enters. Upon seeing Enkid, Lippet does not get up, but gestures to the high-backed chair opposite him. Lippet beckons cheekily.
Hello, Enkid. Come sit and join me in feasting and drinking.
Approaching the table, Enkid adjusts the chair to his liking and sits down.
I'm not hungry, but I'll have a cup of water.
Lippet sets aside a portion of meat, wiping his hands on his beard, prompting the nearby women to retreat. They depart swiftly. Reclining in his chair, he scrutinizes Enkid with narrowed eyes.
Why do you possess such immense pride? Or is it arrogance? Perhaps you're just foolish.
No, I would call it loyalty to the king. I faithfully carry out his instructions, unlike you.
I'm also loyal to the king.
Enkid rises from the table, fists clenched, leaning over Lippet with determination.
No, you are a thief and a sadist.
Lippet, wearing a wicked smile, poses a question.
Can you prove it that I am a thief?
Yes, I can. I have enough evidence now.
Lippet's face turns pale.
You exploit the canal's resources and materials. You include the names of deceased slaves in the expense records. You extort the workers, reducing their food and living standards.
Enkid pauses momentarily before continuing.
You withhold payment from the teams of artisans unless they reimburse you half of the contracted price. I believe this serves as compelling evidence.
Lippet rises from the table, placing his hands firmly on its surface.
You have no idea whom you are challenging.
Don't scare me. You've picked the wrong person.
What is it that you desire? Perhaps you seek gold, a vast amount of gold.
I seek the truth. It's my source of strength. And what do you possess?
A fleeting hint of pity appears in Lippett's eyes.
I possess more than you can fathom. For instance, a kinship with a godlike king. Friends may come and go, but kinship will last a lifetime.
Enkid displays a slight hesitation and clenches his jaw before responding.
I hold the power to expel you, and so I shall.
You will regret this more than you can comprehend.
I have spoken my piece. If you do not depart by tomorrow's dawn, the guards will escort you out with dishonor.
Enkid exits the room with dignity, leaving Lippett hissing in his wake.
I will destroy you.
Internal. Builder's camp. Enkid's chamber. Night. Enkid issues orders to the guard standing before him.
At daybreak, if Lippett refuses to leave willingly, forcefully evict him from the premises.
The guard bows to acknowledge the instructions.
Arrest his overseers. Restrict all communication until the investigation is concluded.
With a gesture, he dismisses the guard. Lost in thought, he stands by the desk filled with reporting tables. He inquires of himself audibly.
Kinship. Really?
Internal. Palace. Bazi's room. Evening. Bazi sits at his desk, meticulously reviewing the filled tables of texts. A servant silently enters the room.
Master, Lippett has arrived from Nippur. Shall I allow him in?
Lippett, what brings him here? Yes, let him in.
Bazi absent-mindedly organizes the tablets and swiftly rises. He pauses by a small table adorned with a jug of wine and dried fruits. He pours red wine into a golden cup. A disheveled Lippett appears at the room's threshold, placing his hand on his heart and bowing.
Selim Himim, dear father-in-law.
Selim, why are you here instead of being in Nippur?
Lippett takes a few steps toward Bazi and stops.
You assured me there was nothing to worry about, but it seems we might be in trouble.
Bazi takes a sip of his wine.
Are you implying that you are in trouble by being here?
No, we're all in trouble. Enkid has exposed everything. I can't comprehend how he accomplished it so quickly.
He has been working on it for a long time, and I can't stop him.
He gave me an ultimatum. Either I leave voluntarily, or he will publicly removing me. I chose the former option.
So, there has been no commotion yet?
Not as of now.
That's good. Relax then, and have a seat.
I won't forget him. He is my personal enemy.
Bazi settles back at his desk, and Lippett pulls a chair to sit across from him. Bazi savors the aroma of his cup.
You have a chance to settle the score with him, establish contact with the Amorites' gang leader in Nippur.
Lippett nods in agreement.
I understand what you mean.
Bazi finishes his wine and stands up.
I must meet someone at the palace.
What should I do right now?
Have a meal, enjoy some wine, and await further instructions.
External. Builder's camp. Lippett's residence. Morning. Enkid comes out of the residence to greet Namkhani, who is patiently waiting. A warm smile graces the royal inspector's face. Namkhani bows respectfully.
Namkhani, come with me.
Internal. Builder's camp. Lippett's residence. Morning. Enkid leads the way as they enter a spacious room. Namkhani pauses at the threshold, taking in the surroundings. Enkid gestures towards Lippett's chair.
This seat is now yours.
Namkhani's eyes widen in surprise. He humbly bows his head, then lifts it again.
Did you really succeed?
I did, but now it's your turn to take bolder steps.
Namkhani strides towards a grand wooden table, confidently claiming Lippett's seat on the imposing high-backed chair. He settles in comfortably.
Where shall I begin?
Enkid paces the room, hands clasped behind his back, lost in deep contemplation. Cut to. External. Construction site. Camp. Day. Slaves form a line, patiently waiting for their meager rations. Their faces are no longer as somber as before. Meanwhile, Enkid holds a meeting with a group of craftsmen. They gesture, explaining something to Enkid. He agrees with them.
Delegate your own team of supervisors and senior workers. Increase the provisions for diligent laborers. Grant freedom to the most hardworking slaves. Make sure that no one else takes away any of the payments from the artisans.
Back to. Internal. builder's camp. Lippitt's residence morning. Nemkani acknowledges the instructions with a nod.
Certainly. I will follow your instructions faithfully.
The timely completion of the dam and canal is of utmost importance.
Nemkani bows his head with confidence.
I am unwavering dedicated to you. I will not disappoint you.
I will stay in Nippur, but will visit the building site from time to time. Take action.
External. Nippur. The city gate. Sunset. Enkid's caravan reaches the city and is halted by guards. He dismounts, brushing the dust from his attire. The guards inspect the royal seal before respectfully allowing him to enter the city gates. Pausing at the open gate, Enkid takes in the skyline of the city and the ziggurat silhouetted against the sunset. Elegantly attired urbanizers peacefully smile and curiously observe Enkid. Internal. Nippur. Ebabar Temple. Ritual Hall. Evening. The temple's ritual hall is awash in torchlight, its flicker painting dancing shadows on the wall. 6 youthful priestesses, clad in sheer, short silk robes, stand by the arch that leads into the hall.
Drink, for it shall unite you with the divine Inanna.
Ninsakil, 20, an exquisitely beautiful, resolute, and wise young woman, savors the final sip from the silver bowl and returns it to the head priestess. Taking the bowl from her, the head priestess then faces the young priestesses.
Urge in unity with Inanna. Be Inanna.
Enchanted by captivating melodies, the priestesses glide gracefully across the stone floor, making their way to an open-air hall illuminated by torchlight. In the heart of the hall, a small hill hosts a blazing fire. The priestesses arrange themselves in a semicircle around the fire, entering a serene trance as they begin their attractive dance. In flawless harmony, they exhibit grace and elegance, their bare feet sliding effortlessly over the ground. Ninsakil exudes a magnetic beauty, her every gesture entrancing and spellbinding. In a nook, the head priest and Ninsakil's father are seated in tall chairs. Akala, 45, a poised, silver-haired man, sporting a sun-kissed complexion.
You have an exceptional daughter, outstanding in every way. She could choose to become senior priest.
I'd rather see her wed to an accomplished man. I lack sons and anticipate a grandson.
Given her education and beauty, it shouldn't pose a challenge.
They both captivated by the priestess's ethereal performance. External. Nippur. Entrance to the Ababar Temple. Day. Enkid, adorned in the latest attire, mingles among the city's elite. A group of young priestesses is approaching the entrance to the temple. They grasp posies of blooms in their hands. Enkid's gaze is captivated by Ninsakil, who is dressed in a white tunic and luxurious leather sandals. He catches his gaze. A rosy hue colors her cheeks as she averts her eyes. Enkid responds with a wide grin. Internal. Nippur. Ebabar Temple. Day. A religious ritual unfolds. An esteemed priest leads the proceedings, accompanied by the group of priestesses. By Enkid's side stands Akala, attired in a black linen tunic. Enkid tilts his head toward the priest's ear.
Who is that enchanting priestess adorned in opulent leather sandals? What is her name?
Akala turns towards Enkid, examining him.
That is my daughter, Ninsakil.
In Sumerian, her name means pure lady.
Indeed, she's a genuine Sumerian.
Is she currently unattached?
She's unattached, if you're wondering. Are you considering marriage?
It's a possibility.
Well, when you've made a decision, come bearing some gifts. Maybe then I'll consider your proposal.
Enkid gazes unwaveringly at the enchanting woman. Ninsakil steals a backward glance. He winks at her, as if the two share a hidden understanding. Internal. Nippur. Akala's house. Day. Enkid and Akala occupy reed armchairs at the table, embellished with the offerings Enkid has brought. Silver bowl, short dagger, pearl necklace, hair comb.
I graciously accept your generous gifts and entrust you with my beloved daughter.
Rest assured, I will cherish her always. Shall we set a date for the wedding?
Let us not be hasty. Before the ceremony, we must prepare and sign a prenuptial agreement.
Of course, I understand.
Internal. Nippur. Akala's house. Evening. Ninsakil weeps quietly. She's scared.
Father, If I don't become a senior priestess, then I want to marry for love, not money or status.
Love is a luxury we can't afford. N-Kid is well regarded and has a promising career.
But what about my own happiness?
You'll grow to love him. He'll take good care of you. Trust me.
All right, Father. I trust you.
Internal, Nippur, tavern in the remote outskirts. Evening, Lipit meets secretly with the leader of the Amorites named Urlama, 40, a man with a noble appearance and a robust physique. A black bandage conceals one of his eyes.
Eliminate the royal inspector. We pay in gold.
Lipit produces a compact leather pouch brimming with gold. Urlama takes it and weighs it in his hand.
Rest assured, my associates will execute the task with utmost efficiency.
External, Nippur, N-Kid's residence, garden, evening, wedding celebration. All attendees are attired in their finest clothing. Ilabani is delivering musical entertainment. At a grand table, Ninsikil sits silently beside her newly wedded husband. She appears radiant in a white silk tunic, adorned with earrings and a diadem on her head. A Kala is seated to her right, while N-Kid's father, Armail, and a Tab sit nearby on N-Kid's left. Hermesh, Umit, Kuda, and Namkani have mingled with the bride's guests. Everyone is smiling and enjoying themselves while congratulating the newly married couple. Internal, Nippur, N-Kid's residence. Bedroom, night. Ilabani's melodious music fills the air as the full moon illuminates the bedroom of the newlyweds. The young couple is sitting awkwardly close to each other, with Ninsikil submitting to her husband's touch without showing any emotion. The music transports us to the vast steppe under the starry sky as the sun gradually rises. External, Mesopotamia, steppe road, sand hills, day. A convoy of travelers, comprising several carts, makes its way. Armed guards steer the carts. Servants leading laden mules accompany the procession. The pathway winds between two hills. As the caravan reaches the midpoint, a gang of Amorites emerges from the crest of the nearest hill. They conceal their faces behind leather masks. N-Kid's blind mentor catches the sound first, mimicking the cry of a golden eagle in a whistle. N-Kid rouses from slumber, notices the ascending bandits, and leaps off the cart.
Alert, Amorites!
N-Kid's comrades, Akurgal's warriors and charioteers, swiftly disembark from the carts.
Arrange the carts in a line.
Ilabani opens his eyes to the chaos as his cart driver abandons the cart and flees in terror. The Amorites remain quiet atop the hill, watching the commotion below. N-Kid takes his wife from the wagon and shelters her behind a cartwheel, crouching beside.
Everything will work out. No need to be scared.
N-Kid reaches for a chest in the cart and retrieves a sheepskin cloak.
This and my love will protect you.
A horn's call resonates from the hilltop. Archers prepare their arrows as two groups brandishing swords and spears begin a measured advance from opposite sides. Archers rain down arrows upon the caravan. One arrow finds its mark in the fleeing driver of Ilabani's cart. Witnessing this, Ilabani gasps in horror.
No.
Ninsikil peers from beneath the sheepskin cloak, spotting the alarmed Ilabani. She promptly approaches him.
Take cover under the cart, quickly.
Ilabani regains his composure and swiftly exits the cart, bringing Ninsikil with him. They both conceal themselves behind the cart. N-Kid's father and Kuda respond with counterfire. N-Kid promptly joins the battle. He takes an accurate shot, hitting the main attacker in the neck. As the other assailants witness their leader's downfall, they hesitate and their progress slows. Without a moment's pause, N-Kid readies another arrow and aims. Hermesh and Umit find refuge behind the cart.
I need your help. Give me sealed ceramic jug from the chest in the cart.
Hermesh retrieves the jug from the chest, noticing the rope wound around it. He hands it over to Umit.
What's this?
You are better not knowing. A combustible composition. Light the wick, it's time to try.
Hermesh hurries to the bowl of smoldering coals at the driver's feet. Taking cover behind the wagon, he shields it from view and begins to blow on the coals. The clash of weapons and battle cries resonates through the air as the groups collide. N-Kid swiftly evaluates the scene. On the left flank, Akergal's warriors fend off the assailants, employing swords and spears. The situation on the right is dire as a band of attackers overwhelms the warriors. Enkid hands his quiver with arrows to his father. Drawing his sword, he charges into the midst of the warriors on the right. Kuda follows his lead. The two combatants engage the Amorites with fierce steel-on-steel clashes, displaying their strength and agility. Simultaneously, the reserve group of Amorites advances cautiously on the left flank, grappling with the sandy terrain. Ramesh firmly holds the flaming bowl.
Don, what's next?
Throw it in the crowd.
Ramesh charges forward with loud cries, hurling the flaming bowl into the midst of the group of robbers. Thick, dark smoke rises from the arid ground, enveloping the Amorite attackers. Coughing and stumbling, they come to a sudden stop. The fire spreads beneath their feet, panic and screams erupting as they scramble away. Ramesh's triumphant shout rings out as he races back to the cart, reuniting with Umit.
What did you make it from?
You will laugh. From donkey urine.
From donkey urine? No.
Yes, but I had preserved it for a long time.
They both share a nervous laugh. From the hill's crest, Urlama observes the unfolding battle. As he watches events below, his irritation grows. He dismissively commands a retreat with a gesture. A lookout signals the hill's fighters with a horn blast. After retrieving the wounded, the hilltop archers depart, moving along the ridge. Enkid gains the upper hand, delivering a fatal blow to one robber. The other two flee and vanish into the hills. Kuda prepares to pursue them.
Stop, no need.
They ruined your wedding.
Both look at each other and simultaneously remember.
Ninsakil.
Enkid is stopped by his father on his way to her cart, who jubilantly embraces him.
Yes, we whoop their sorry asses.
Enkid cautiously attempts to extricate himself.
I apologize, Dad. My wife.
Damn good brawl, son.
Enkid deftly releases himself from his father's grasp and swiftly strides toward his wife's cart. He discovers her sheepskin cloak on the ground, impaled by an arrow. Nonetheless, amidst the turmoil, he hears joyous exclamations emanating from Ilabani's cart, and there he beholds Ninsakil, radiating beauty and courage. He hastens to her side. Ninsakil rises, steadying herself on Enkid's arms, and surveys the battlefield with a mix of wonder and determination.
Are you unhurt, my beloved?
Yes, I'm unscathed.
A trace of the peril they've narrowly averted is visible on her countenance.
The battle is over.
Gazing at her spouse with joy and reverence, she presses close to his chest. He tenderly embraces her. Overhead, the eagle soars, its vigilant gaze encompassing the youthful couple and the battleground. Internal, Palace, King's Throne Hall, evening. In the back of the hall, a grand throne made of exquisite ivory stands. The majestic king occupies it with regal elegance, seating in a massive mahogany armchair. Akergal stands respectfully nearby, arms crossed over his chest and head bowed.
What have you found regarding Enkid?
Akergal straightens his stance, meeting the king's gaze.
He retains worth and utility.
What are his assets?
His altruism, especially his steadfast allegiance to you. He aims to be a companion to you, akin to Enkidu from the epic.
The king, taken aback by the response, graces Akergal with a grin.
Friendship is of no concern to me. Did you identify any vulnerabilities?
Vanity. It seems he lacked love during his early years, and now he desires universal affection.
The king rises slowly from his seat. Thoughtfully, he nears a gleaming silver table, his fingers lightly tracing the figurines on a vase.
Vanity and power render individuals susceptible.
Retracting his hand, he pivots and strides toward Akergal.
Where is he presently?
Within the palace, anticipating your command for his appearance.
Summon him.
Internal, Palace, King's Throne Hall, evening. Enkid proceeds toward the throne with measured steps, keeping his gaze lowered. The king, maintaining his unyielding gaze, observes Enkid from above.
You have successfully completed my task. Thankfully, Lipid's guidance proved helpful in your endeavors.
Enkid lifts his head and gazes at the ruler.
But,
with a gesture of his hand, the king stops him.
What truly matters is the outcome. Your success warrants reward.
The king gradually rises from his throne. He nonchalantly gestures towards the chest filled with jewels.
In due time, you may choose as many jewels as you can carry.
Enkid places his hand over his heart and bows in gratitude. The king stands still briefly, then descends the throne steps.
I am pleased with you.
He turns away from Enkid, striding toward the concealed door and disappearing within it. Enkid stands erect, taking a deep breath. After a momentary pause, he moves towards the chest brimming with jewels. He chooses a substantial gold ring adorned with carnelian, sliding it onto his finger, and gazes in admiration. Internal, or Enkid's house. Room, evening. 5 years later, 2080 BC. Enkid, now matured, boasts a meticulously groomed beard and a robust physique. He illuminates with an oil lamp celestial maps etched on clay tablets. He swiftly turns, alerted by the sudden commotion. A messenger enters the room, executing a profound bow.
I bear unfortunate tidings.
Enkid's countenance betrays his alarm.
Speak.
Your father is on his deathbed and beckons for your presence.
Enkid stands contemplatively beside the table, his face marked by sorrow and remorse.
I shall journey to him.
Enkid lets out a weighty sigh. Internal. Mesopotamia, Larsa's city, Abzu's house. In the bedroom, Abzu lies upon a sizable wooden bed, breathing heavily with a raspy sound. At the bedside, the mournful blind servant Adab stands, his hands folded over his chest.
He waited for your arrival, but as of yesterday, he hasn't recognized anyone.
Enkid kneels before the bed. He attempts to caress Abzu's face with his palm. Abzu merely furrows his brow, and with visible strain and a raspy groan, he turns his head away.
Can any measures be taken to assist him?
No.
Did he manage to convey a message for me?
Yes, he said he loves you and is proud of you.
Enkid sobs, moaning.
Father, I am grateful to you. I will always remember you.
Adab approaches Enkid and takes a seat beside him, placing an arm around his shoulder, comforting him as they both weep. Internal, or tavern under the cane roof. Evening, 2 weeks later. Enkid enters the tavern. Upon his head rests a golden circlet. Sajisha rushes to greet him, hugs him.
I've heard about your sorrow. My condolences.
Thanks, Sajisha.
Enkid approaches the group of friends without a smile, and everyone rises from the table to greet him. He hugs Umit first.
I'm so sorry for your loss.
Thank you, Umit.
I share in the sorrow as well.
Enkid offers unique handshakes to Urmesh.
Thanks for your sympathy, brother.
Ilabani embraces Enkid, sobbing.
I'm deeply sorry about your father.
Enkid comforts him, gently patting his back.
Calm down, Ilabani. We are all mortal.
They take their seats at the table. Internal, or tavern under the cane roof. Evening, later. Enkid and his comrades have already emptied several pitchers of red wine, but there's no joy at the table. Urmesh's gaze locks onto Enkid.
Now you've got a golden circlet. Congrats, that's impressive.
It's a pity my father didn't live to see this.
Abzu was a person of great worth. He left a commendable legacy.
And what happened to the old blind slave?
Atab lives with me now. He's not a burden to anyone. Ninsikil gets along well with him.
Ilabani interrupts the conversation, leaning in closer.
Are you thinking of joining the archery contest?
I think I'll participate. You know, I could use a shake-up.
I say the mightiest archer in the entire realm is Lipit. Do you remember him?
I'd rather not think of him. Nevertheless, I'll triumph no matter who my opponent is.
Then let's raise a toast to the best archer and person I know.
They all hoist their wine goblets and clink them together with cheerful clatter. External, or Enkid's house. Night. Enkid returns from the capital on a cart, accompanied by a guard. The garden is bathed in the soft glow of moonlight and torches. He leaps from his seat, brushes off dust from his attire, and proceeds toward the house's front. In response to the commotion, Atab emerges from the dwelling. He is carrying a pitcher of water and a clean cloth. At the entrance, Atab pours water from the jug. Enkid cleanses his hands, splashing water onto his face. Atab hands him the cloth. He sniffs.
Your recent drinking has been excessive. It's detrimental to you.
Enkid wipes his face and hands the cloth to Atab.
I'll find a way to handle it.
He walks unsteadily towards the front door of the house. Internal, or Enkid's house. Night. Enkid enters a chamber where Ninsikil descends the stairs to greet him.
I'm delighted to see you, my beloved husband.
He regards her with indifference.
I thought you were already asleep.
No, I've been eagerly waiting for you. Your recent distance has been troubling me.
Do you want to know why?
Is it because I haven't been able to give you a child?
Precisely. I've bid my father farewell properly, but who will do the same for me when my time comes?
It seems the gods aren't listening my prayers at the moment.
Please, leave. I need some time alone.
Certainly, I'll go. It's best not to converse with you in this condition.
An irritated Ninsikil walks away, leaving Enkid by himself. External, Palace Square, Archer's Arena, day.
Presently, we reach the eagerly anticipated culmination.
The crowd is thrilled.
Let us extend our greetings to the premier archers of the entire realm.
Enkid and Lipit position themselves, greeted warmly by the audience. Basi, regally stationed near the arena entrance, signals a warrior holding an arrow-filled quiver, who acknowledges the command. He removes a stone from the ring and flips it inward with a needle. Enkid extends his hand toward the quiver and unexpectedly feels a slight prick in his palm from a sharp object. Gazing at the puncture, Enkid notices a tiny droplet of blood forming. He briefly glances at the departing warrior. He licks the blood away from the wound. Lipit takes the first shot, hitting the target's bullseye. The crowd erupts in joy, and the king subtly nods in approval. Enkid steps forward, kneeling momentarily before steadying himself. As he aims, a fleeting tremor unsettles him. He quickly regains his composure. While aiming, he struggles to find focus, as the target unexpectedly blurs. Despite blinking and shaking his head, clarity remains elusive. Nevertheless, he squints tightly, directing his arrow at the blurred center, hitting the mark though slightly off-center. The audience sighs with disappointment. Enkid rises, bewildered, and notices Lipit's self-satisfied grin. Lipit signals to the crowd, seeking their encouragement, which results in enthusiastic cheers. The king observes Lipit's victory and nods his head in subdued approval of the shot. Internal, Palace, Lugal's office, day.
You can't always win. Only Sargon the Ancient never lost a battle.
Yes, it's true, but it was a dirty victory. They tried to poison me.
But you're alive and well.
Someone meticulously calculated the poison's timing.
Supporting your version, there are rumors about a poison expert from Miluka. Allegedly, he's in the capital now, but it might just be gossip.
However it may be, it's unfair.
All right, let's get down to work. I have a crucial and confidential message for Erdunana.
Do you want me to deliver it?
Yes, the chief vizier is working at his residence in the capital.
How soon?
The sooner the better, and use your speed. I still wonder how one can sit atop a horse.
What should I convey to him verbally?
It's the puzzle he was searching for.
Lugal takes a medium-sized clay envelope. He hands it over to Enkid. Internal, Erdunana's residence, day. Two imposing sentinels are stationed by the entrance to the chief vizier's chamber. They intercept Enkid.
What is the purpose of your visit?
I bear a message to the chief vizier from the palace.
One of the guards enters Erdunana's chamber. After a brief interval, he reappears, extending an invitation to Enkid to step inside. Internal, Erdunana's residence, chamber, day. Seated at the table, Erdunana observes Enkid's approach and stands, moving toward him.
Enkid, your presence brings satisfaction.
A message awaits you from the Lugal. It comprises a puzzle long absent from your possession.
Show it to me promptly.
Enkid retrieves a clay envelope from his bag and presents it to Erdunana with a nod. Erdunana steps closer to the table, wields a dagger, and meticulously cleaves the envelope with his hilt. Extracting a clay tablet inscribed with text, he inquires,
"Why does it bear such a sticky veneer akin to honey?"
He reads the text. At some point, he exclaims,
"What on earth is this? Why do I need a report on army rations?"
Suddenly, he gazes at his hands. They turn vivid red and begin to blister. In horror, Erdunana fixes his look upon his hands.
"What have you brought me?"
Unease begins to tighten its grip on him. Erdunana collapses onto his side, inadvertently sweeping statuettes and tablets from the table, causing a clatter as they collide with the stone floor. With confusion, Enkid rushes to his side. Erdunana slumps to the ground, convulsing in his final spasms. Guards burst into the chamber, their eyes fix on the senior vizier in agony and Enkid leaning over him. Without a word, they launch themselves at Enkid. Enkid swiftly sidestepped the attacker's move, deftly making them clash into each other.
I did not take his life. I have been framed.
Once more, the guards pounce on him. Now, Enkid administers rapid, precise blows to the adversary's vulnerable points, rendering them immobile. The guards crumple. Enkid bends over them.
I'm innocent, guys. Do not dare to handle the tablet. It's tainted.
The rhythmic thuds of other guards' footsteps reach his ears. Unhesitatingly, Enkid vaults over the balcony's arch onto the rooftop of the edifice. External, or Erdunana's residence. Day. Across the extension's rooftops, he advances towards the primary gates, easing his pace. He glides past the gatekeepers and mounts a steed. Just then, the resonance of a grand drum reverberates. The watchmen cry out, "Alert!" The guards secure the main entrance. Enkid promptly retreats through the labyrinthine streets of the capital. External, or Enkid's house. Courtyard, day. The old slave Adab sits in the yard of the house. He has a mongoose on his lap, stroking him. Enkid rushes into the courtyard eagerly. The startled mongoose slips out of Adab's hands and scurries away to hide.
Oh, Enkid, you frightened my mongoose.
Enkid dismounts from the horse.
Time is scarce. Pursuers are on my trail.
He swiftly makes his way to the house's entrance. Internal, or Enkid's house, room, day. Enkid storms inside, swiftly equips himself, stashes rations and a water flask into a bag slung across his shoulder. Ninsakil descends the staircase. She regards her husband with astonishment.
What's going on?
No matter what you hear, don't trust it. I'm blameless, but I must vanish.
Ninsakil remains confounded.
What should I do?
Atab will guide you to Ilabani. You won't be searched for in the palace. Act swiftly.
He dashes out of the dwelling. Ninsakil fleetly moves, snatching a cape from the entrance and covering her head with it. External, or Enkid's house. Courtyard, day. The eagle soars from Enkid's flat-roofed house. It circles above the adjacent streets. Down those streets, squads of archers, their belts adorned with short daggers, hurry. As Enkid vanishes around a bend, the initial group of warriors approaches his residence, closely pursued by a second contingent. Ninsakil and Atab successfully depart via the auxiliary exit onto a slender alleyway. External, or high gate, day. Drawing near the gatekeepers, Enkid deftly steers his horse. The horse proceeds with a rhythmic trot and a graceful canter past the intrigued sentinels. The warriors recognize him. They offer greetings and grant passage. Beyond the gates, the rider transitions to a vigorous gallop. The path extends into the expanse of the steppe. The reverberations of the mighty drum's alarm barely reach his ears. Above the palace, a towering chimney emits a plume of black smoke. Internal, or tavern under the cane roof, sunset. Apprehensive, Ilabani enters the tavern. He swiftly surveys the space, identifying Ninsakil seated discreetly at a far corner table. A shrouded scarf conceals her countenance. He approaches her table and takes a seat. She is frightened.
I arrived promptly upon receiving your location.
Please explain to me what's happening.
The chief vizier was poisoned a couple of hours ago. Enkid was the one who delivered the ill-fated package.
Reassure me of his innocence.
Indeed, however, the guards are detaining individuals who might be involved.
He tenderly places his hand upon hers, offering solace.
We must depart before they uncover your location.
She shyly frees her hand.
Where will we seek refuge?
Chaos prevails in the palace. I will conceal you within a covert urban residence known to a select few.
They both stand up from the table and quickly depart. Internal, or Ilabani's covert residence, evening. Torches illuminate the room. Ninsikil reclines in a bath, cradling a silver chalice of date wine. A servant slave, her hair woven into 2 thick braids, cleanses Ninsikil's unoccupied hand with soapy root. The handmaiden rises and retrieves a dry cloth. Ninsikil takes a prolonged sip, then places the cup on the broad rim of the tub. She stands, steps out of the bath, and permits the handmaiden to enrobe her. Internal, or Ilibani's covert residence. Bedroom, night. Ninsikil is dozing off. Half asleep, she hears a scratching sound in the room. Ilibani comes to the threshold.
How are you? Is everything well?
Yes, though I'm apprehensive. Be with me.
Certainly.
He shifts and reclines beside her.
You once rescued me. Now I'm grateful to repay the favor. Rest, I'll guard your sleep.
You're incredibly thoughtful.
Ninsikil arranges herself more cozily. She drifts into slumber. Internal, Mesopotamia, the city of Elobid. Kuda's house. Night. Kuda and Enkid are seated on the table.
You're in a tough spot.
Enkid's smile carries bitterness.
Everyone expects me to try to hide far away from the capital.
It seems so.
I need to do what is expected of me the least. I must secretly return to the capital.
What's on your mind?
I must find a particular individual. He's from Meluka and should have a distinct appearance.
Who are you talking about?
I've heard he's a leading expert on poisons. Finding him might bring clarity to various issues.
I will assist you. By blending in with merchant caravans, we can slip into Ewa discreetly.
You seem to be right. That's what we'll do. I must find a way to establish my innocence.
Internal, or Ilibani's covert residence. Bedroom, morning. Ninsikil is the first to awaken. Beside her lies a slumbering Ilibani. She admires his attractive countenance. Yielding to her longing, she presses a kiss to the corner of his mouth. He wears a sleeping smile. Ninsikil seeks his lips and bestows upon them a more fervent kiss. He stirs and tenderly enfolds her in his arms. They merge in a protracted, impassioned kiss. Ilibani's touch begins to caress her bosom. He lavishes kisses upon her neck and chest, lifting her tunic, planting tender kisses upon her abdomen, and descending even lower. Ninsikil's visage reveals a blend of astonishment and delight. External, or Highgate. Day. 2 days later, soldiers at the entrance diligently check everyone entering and leaving. Enkid and his associates, dressed as Bedouins, await their turn. Enkid observes the checkpoint. Their turn approaches.
My friends will create a disturbance while we slop through the gates. Be ready.
Kuda's associates start to struggle and make a fuss.
Folks, he took my wallet. Hold him.
Hey, you're lying. He didn't take anything from you.
A scuffle is beginning. All the soldiers come rushing over to contain the situation. Kuda nudges Enkid. They edge around the commotion. Internal, or guest house for merchants. Room, day. The friends settle in the guest room, removing Bedouin scarves from their faces.
We're lucky for now. What's next?
I need to meet Ilibani. You can find him within the palace grounds.
Well, remember Ilibani. I'll find him.
Next, instruct your team to investigate all major markets and inquire about a foreign healer.
It will be done. I'm heading to the palace right now, and you, in the meantime, take a rest.
External, or Palace Square. Sunset. Kuda awaits Ilibani's appearance, sitting at the table in a tavern. When he spots the poet walking through the palace square, he approaches and speaks softly.
Enkid sends his regards.
Ilibani is taken aback.
Hasn't he escaped the capital?
No, he's returned and wishes to see you. I'll lead you to him.
Ilibani stares at Kuda.
I'll remember you. Sure, I'll come with you.
After a brief moment of confusion, he follows Kuda. Internal, or guest house for merchants. Room, evening. Ilibani enters the room and greets Enkid.
Delighted to see you, my friend. I've been concerned about you.
They exchange a unique handshake, reminiscent of old comrades.
I'm well.
You've caused quite a stir. The palace is in chaos due to the chief vizier's death.
I didn't kill him. I was framed.
Certainly, I believe in your innocence.
Both settle by the hearth.
How's my wife? Is she well?
Absolutely. She's in seclusion at my secret house in the capital.
Enkid notices his embarrassment and looks closely at his friend.
That's reassuring. Now, apprise me of the current state within the palace.
What news do you seek most discussed, or the latest?
Start with the latest.
Lugal ended his own life using poison, while some speculate about possible assistance.
I've been aware of it since the beginning. What about the discussed one?
The most discussed new Vizier has temporarily taken over as the chief vizier, while Lipit has been given a new position.
Enkid instinctively crosses his arms, leaning back.
And what's his new role now?
He's overseeing river bitumen and tar oil. They say Lipit will eventually manage salt extraction as well.
Enkid strokes his chin.
That's a grave error. Lipit is corrupt and opportunistic.
Oh no, I haven't heard that, my friend. Such judgments are for the court, not us.
Enkid appears perturbed, lost in thought.
When you see Ninsikil, tell her it's all going to be over soon.
Of course, don't worry about her.
Thank you, my friend.
Ilabani quickly rises and swiftly departs, leaving Enkid deep in thought. Internal. Palace, King's Throne Hall, day. The king occupies a grand throne, seating in a massive blackwood armchair. Akergul stands respectfully nearby, arms crossed over his chest and head bowed.
I'm certain Lugal used Enkid covertly.
Then why did he escape?
The guards could have slain him immediately. He was merely defending himself.
Akergul smirks.
Ingeniously, he eluded my warriors on horseback.
Almost as if you hold admiration for him.
While alive, he can train my soldiers in horsemanship.
The king rises slowly from his throne. The adornments on his garments glimmer faintly.
I command the immediate presence of Enkid at the palace. Disseminate this decree through heralds in all cities.
Certainly, my lord, your command shall be executed.
The king gestures to release his loyal vizier. Akergul vanishes through a hidden door. Internal. Ilabani's covert residence. Bedroom, morning. Ninsikil rests her head on Ilabani's chest.
What comes next, should he be absolved? I have to go back to him.
This thought tears me apart.
Ninsikil gazes into his eyes.
I'm overjoyed to have finally felt love. Will I see you again?
Of course, many times.
Ninsikil tenderly caresses her lover's face.
How will I know you're waiting for me?
The moment you hear minstrels performing my love poem for you in the marketplaces.
But how will I recognize it?
I will pen it down for you right now.
He kisses her passionately, then pulls away and gets up from the bed. Tying a cloth around his waist, he walks over to the table and retrieves a wet clay tablet. Ilabani pauses for a moment, pondering, before he begins to meticulously inscribe the melody onto the tablet. Ninsikil sits up on the bed, arranging her hair gracefully around her shoulders. She covers herself with a light blanket, captivated by Ilabani's precise movements. Ilabani pauses his writing, examining the tablet, and sets it aside. He walks to the far corner of the room, retrieves a march lyre from its case, and returns to sit beside Ninsikil on the bed. Running his fingers along the strings, he starts to play the love song he has composed. Ninsikil, with tears of joy in her eyes, listens to the captivating melody. External. Market Square on the pier, day. Kuda stands by the jeweler's stall, surveying the marketplace and its inhabitants. Two companions stand nearby, by the copperware stalls, also observing the bustling market. Suddenly, a herald's voice rings out.
Enkid from Lhasa, the king summons you to the palace. Refrain from eating, drinking, or sitting. Begin your journey immediately.
Kuda spots a dark-skinned individual amidst the crowd, attired like an Amorite with a sheepskin skirt and a draped shawl over the shoulder. Leading the way is a formidable-looking Amorite, with two others providing rear protection. Kuda and his companions exchange glances. Before he signals to move, he observes the presence of four robust men trailing the Amorite group. Among them, he recognizes two from his time in Nippur, when they safeguarded Enkid. He gestures for his companions to halt, continuing his vigilant observation. A beggar ahead of the foremost Amorite halts him by grabbing his garments. Distracted, the Amorite attempts to forcibly remove the beggar from his path when another inconspicuous figure swiftly thrusts a short dagger into the Amorite's side. The Amorites trailing the dark-skinned stranger witness this and strive to protect him, but they soon find themselves encircled by several Akergul's warriors. A brief yet ferocious struggle ensues, culminating in the Amorites falling under the blows of short swords. Panic sweeps through the crowd as armed soldiers make their way forward. Despite his efforts to blend in, the stranger fails to evade notice. Two warriors apprehend him, forcing him to the ground and begin binding him. A bag is placed over the stranger's head, and he is promptly transported through a path cleared by the soldiers. Kuda issues a retreat command to his companions and vanishes into the bustling square, merging with the teeming crowd. Internal, or guest house for merchants. Room, day. Enkid and Kuda occupy seats by the hearth, engaged in their conversation. Enkid sips his beer from a clay chalice using a reed.
We located the stranger, but we were outwitted. They captured him with remarkable skill.
Do tell, who could it be?
I recognized two of them. They were your guardians in Nipper.
That's Ackergal. I think you'll get the truth out of him.
There's more.
Go ahead.
The town criers have delivered a royal decree. The king requests your immediate presence at the palace.
Enkid contemplates the news quietly.
I hope you won't comply.
No, Kuda. Fleeing for a lifetime isn't my goal. I'll head to the palace right away. Consequences be damned.
Internal, or palace. Ackergal's chamber, evening. Enkid stands before Ackergal, his hands bound behind him, displaying an outwardly composed demeanor. Two warriors stand as sentinels behind him. Ackergal regards him sternly.
So, what should we do with you?
I didn't commit the deed. I merely delivered a sealed envelope.
Ackergal dismisses the notion with a wave of his hand.
Indeed, I'm aware.
Ackergal then directs the warriors.
Tie him and leave us be.
One of the warriors releases Enkid's bound hands, and they both bow before exiting the chamber.
You've been lucky by promptly answering the palace's call. This indirectly supports your innocence.
Ackergal rises from his seat and approaches Enkid.
The construction phase is over. It's time for war.
He gazes intensely into Enkid's eyes, who maintains his unwavering gaze.
From now on, your loyalty belongs solely to the king and me, and you must prove it.
What tasks do you assign to me?
Firstly, the godlike king wishes to celebrate the next full moon festival in Nippur. You must ensure his safe stay.
Enkid agrees, indicating his consent with a nod.
Secondly, select 10 of my best warriors and train them in horsemanship.
For that, I'll need high-quality horses.
You will receive the necessary funds.
Enkid acknowledges this with a nod.
And there's one more matter.
Enkid scrutinizes Ackergal attentively.
Remember, the king isn't your friend. He's our master and we are his property.
Enkid reluctantly agrees.
Indeed, you're right. I am his loyal servant, and I will remain so.